Good evening. We'll be talking about Chapter 2, Cross-Cultural Variations in Consumer Behavior. Let's move on to slide number 3. Learning objectives define the concept of culture, describe core values that vary across culture and influence behaviors, understand cross-cultural variations in nonverbal communications, summarize key aspects of the global youth culture, understand the role of global demographics, and list the key dimensions in deciding to enter a foreign market. Consumer behavior in the news, slide 4. Can you guess what percent of purchasing power is held by Japanese consumers in the 50-plus age category? Is it 25, 45, 65, or 80? The answer, slide 5. Changing the global demographics, percent of purchasing power held by Japanese consumers in the 50-plus age category, 80%. If you said 80, you were correct. Mirrors aging baby boom in the U.S. Easier to use product keys. Those are the things they're looking for, but electric guitars, a big hit too. So you have things that are easy to use. An electric guitar, being a guitar player, I could tell you electric guitar is hard, but that's what they're interested in as well. Can you relate to this popularity? Karaoke as business socializing tool in Japan? Absolutely. Japanese culture is based on socialization. It's based on being friendly and kind of like a courtship between you and your business partner. Slide number 6. Marketing across cultural boundaries is a difficult and challenging task. Why? Because of language, demographics, values, and nonverbal communications. And of course, that leads into a marketing strategy. All right, there's a video application of this on slide 7. You can look at that. Actually, slide 8. Number 9, globalization. Globalization changing from one-way influence from U.S. to other countries to mutual influence. 4 major world citizens, global dreamers, anti-globals, and global agnostics. Culture, slide 10. Culture is the complex whole that includes knowledge, belief, art, law, morals, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by humans as members of society. Slide 11. The concept of culture. Cultural values give rise to norms and associated sanctions if norms are not held, which in turn influence consumption patterns. Cultures are not static. They typically evolve and change slowly over time. Now, norms are considered to be specified ranges of appropriate behavior and sanctions, penalties for violating those norms. Slide 12, variations in cultural values. The numerous values that differ across cultures and affect consumption include other-oriented values, environment-oriented values, and self-oriented values. Slide 13, variations in culture values, other-oriented values, individual, youth, extended limited family, masculine and feminine, competitive or cooperative, diversity versus uniformity. Slide 14. Environment-oriented values, cleanliness, performance, status, tradition and change, risk-taking and security, problem-solving, and the other side is fatalistic, and of course the nature. Slide 15. Active versus passive, sensual gratification or abstinence, material or non-material, hard work or leisure, postponed gratification versus immediate gratification, religious versus secular. Slide 16. Sensual, you could see Calvin Klein ad is obviously sensual for men's garments. It's okay in US and France, not appropriate in cultures that place a high value on abstinence. If you have a culture that is a more religious and less secular one, this kind of ad would definitely not work. Slide 17, cultural variations in nonverbal communications, time, etiquette, things, agreements, relationships, symbols, and space. Slide 18, time. The meaning of time varies between cultures in 2 major ways, time perspectives and time interpretations. Space, overall use and meanings assigned to space vary widely among different cultures, especially when people talk and they let you continue. I find this very difficult. Sometimes I talk to people from different cultures, I say something and I have to wait a while for them to respond. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with their culture and being polite and letting you respond to it. Symbols, colors, animals, shapes, numbers, and music have varying meanings across cultures. Failure to recognize the meaning assigned to a symbol can cause serious problems. Slide 21, cultural variations in nonverbal communications. White, for example, is a symbol for mourning or death in the Far East, purity in the U.S. Purple, associated with death in many Latin American countries. Blue, connotation of femininity in Holland, masculinity in Sweden and the U.S. Red, unlucky or negative in the country of Chad, Nigeria, Germany, positive in Denmark, Romania, and Argentina. Yellow flower, sign of death in Mexico or infidelity in France. White flower, suggestion of death in England. The number 7 unlucky number in Ghana, Kenya, Singapore, lucky, Morocco, India, Czechoslovakia, Nicaragua, and the US. Triangle, negative in Hong Kong, Korea, Taiwan, positive in Colombia. Owl, wisdom in US, bad luck in India. Deer, speed, grace in US, and homosexuality in Brazil. Just to mention the aspect of homosexuality in Brazil, when John Deere, a company that makes tractors and lawn care machines, sold their product in Brazil, they didn't realize that the deer is a symbol of homosexuality, and they were trying to portray a masculine product, a tractor, and they failed because the deer, which is a feminine product, a feminine symbol, was on a masculine product, and there was this disconnect. Just something you have to be very, very careful with and understand that different cultures have different sensitivities. Relationships. How quickly and easily do cultures form relationships and make friends? Americans tend to form relationships and friends quickly and easily. Chinese relationships are much more complex and characterized by Guangxi. Agreements. How does a culture ensure business obligations are honored? How are disagreements resolved? Some cultures rely on legal systems, others rely on relationships and friendships. Things. The culture meaning of things leads to purchase patterns that one would not otherwise predict. Different meanings that the cultures attach to things, including products, make gift giving a particularly difficult task because people take things differently. Etiquette, the general accepted way of behaving in social situations. Behaviors considered rude or obnoxious in one culture may be quite acceptable in another. For example, burping in some countries would be considered disgusting. Some countries, like in Germany, would be considered an act of, hey, that meal was very satisfying. Of course, in our countries, that would be considered grotesque. A global youth culture, slide 26. Mass media and the internet have had an impact of uniformity among teens around the world. They tend to watch many of the same shows, movies, and videos, listen to the same music, and dress alike. Technology is an important factor, but U.S. youth and brands no longer lead the way. Global demographics, slide 27. Demographics describe a population in terms of its size, structure, and distribution. Demographics are both a result and a cause of cultural values. For example, densely populated societies such as China are likely to have more of a collective orientation than an individualistic one. Disposable income, which is the income left after your taxes are paid and your expenses are paid, is one aspect of demographics. The rapid growth in personal income in parts of China has led to an overall market explosion. Slide 28, global demographics. Marketers increasingly use purchasing power parity, PPP, rather than average or median income. It's based on the cost of a standard market basket of products bought in each country. And the example here is quite easy to understand. The following shows 4 countries in terms of their purchasing power parity. In Brazil, the per capita is $4,791. The percentage of total income to top percent is 45%, and per capita PPP is $8,596. And you look at U.S. on the other side, the per capita income, again, this is based on 2015, is $41,000. Percentage of total income to top 10% is 30%, and per capita PPP is the $41,674, which is the per capita income. Cross-cultural marketing strategy, slide 29. Considerations in approaching a foreign market. Homogeneous versus heterogeneous with respect to cultures. What needs can the product fill in the culture? Number 3, can enough people afford the product? Number 4, what values are relevant to the purchase and use of the product? What are the distribution, political, and legal structures for the product? In what ways can we communicate about the product? What are the ethical implications of marketing this product in this country? Slide 30, applications of consumer behavior. This Chinese Dunkin' Donuts store is an example of glocalization, meaning globalization but with local aspects mixed. Notice the mix of standard and customized themes, color, and symbols. Thank you and have a good evening.